Listen to me, Cory. Throughout your life, there's going to be a lot of opportunities that come up, and they're going to seem great, and they're going to seem wonderful, and they're going to seem like they make your life a heck of a lot easier, but you have to walk away. And, at times it's going to be really difficult to do that, but you have to, because you deserve better. But hey, you know something? It's your life, Cory. It's your decision. You know what's best for you. Now, if you don't mind, got to meet Julie and her study group for jet ski.
When the spawn meets world, spawn meets world. When the spawn meets world.
What up, bros? What up, bros? And welcome to Bruh Meets World. Well, it's Bruh Meets World. Your Boy Meets World fan cast. This is episode 90. I'm Ceej.
And I'm your boy T Dizzle. Tony Coitus, Tonathy, the main man, Bruh Meets World co-host in your face. I'm sorry. I have end of season 4 hypeness.
So I was going to say this is our season 4 finale, and I'm going to say this right now. This may be one of the best episodes of Boy Meets World, definitely of the season. And this is a good-ass season.
This is a great season. Not to sound controversial, I kind of disagree with you about this episode. But
what? How do we do this all the time?
All right, we'll get into it. But overall, I'm just so excited about season 4 in general. Like, we just had so much good stuff. I was actually scrolling through Disney Plus, and I was kind of just scrolling through the season 2 and season 3 titles, and I was just like, man, that episode sucked. And then when you get to season 4, I'm like, honestly, overall, it's just a pretty solid season. So I'm excited that we're wrapping it up, that you're excited to talk about this episode, because I have some thoughts too. And I'm excited to get into it.
It is just you and I today. We've had some really great guests this past season, but we're kind of keeping it old school for the finale. It's just T and I, which I feel can allow us to get into some things and maybe be a little less polished.
And just like, guys, we're hard pedaling the real this episode, okay? Because, honestly, Cory's storyline, I have a lot of thoughts.
I'm really excited. Okay, let's do the tell me about it.
Okay. Tell me about it. Tell me all about the show. Eric has to pick a school. Some college chick wants to ride Cory's tool.
I love it. I
did the best I could. I did the best I could, guys.
Yeah,
you do better. My challenge.
We want you to. Also, we were just talking about this a little bit earlier. We are on Zoom recording this, and we were talking about Zoom backgrounds. If someone can make us a Zoom background of Chubby's or of like Eric in them's bedroom, I think it would be amazing.
The boys' college apartment would be great. The living room for the Matthews would be a great set. The kitchen would be a great set. Sean's trailer, anything, guys. We're hungry for some content. And guys,
but I want to prioritize
1080p, guys. All right, I'm not looking for some blurred background shit. This is a professional operation.
All right, so this is season 4, episode 22. Learn to fly.
Yay!
Eric invites Cory and his friends to come with him to a potential college. However, once Cory finds out Topanga isn't coming, he gets upset, but a sexy college girl named Mary Beth offers to give him a little fun. Meanwhile, Eric's doubt that any real college will accept him leads him to consider staying at a surfer school. Will they be able to walk away from a sure thing, or will they throw away everything they've worked hard to keep?
In my head, you spelled a sure thing, Shore.
Oh my God, that's so good. That's what we should call this. A sure thing.
That's a much better name for this episode. It's a sure thing.
Is. Yeah. Why would they not do that?
Oh my
again,
gosh.
I'm talking to you, Boy Meets World writers room. Do better.
All right. So I definitely
Thoughts.
first thoughts is that I really feel like for a season this strong, this is kind of a weak finale. And that's kind of my overall thoughts is that like, I understand that, we see this great resolution with Eric that I want to talk about. But as far as Cory's storyline goes, I just feel like it's kind of, I wish there was more, like something that kind of played on stories that we touched on with Cory this season. So it felt like a resolution to an ongoing thing and not just a new problem for the finale. Whenever a new problem is introduced in the finale instead of settling old problems, it's harder for me to get on board. And that's my only complaint.
And you're right. I disagree. And I disagree because I feel like this season was about them maturing, but like maturing in a way that we honestly haven't. I mean, like Topanga became Topanga this season. We're talking about sex. We're talking about real life issues. We got as you said, we got the book into Eric's storyline of getting into college and growth and his whole gap year situation. But also with Cory and Topanga, we've kind of seen them mature as a couple. And this time we're getting the adult content that they deserve. So to me, this was them saying, hey, by the way, we're going there. We're talking about sex now. We're not just kind of alluding to it jokingly. No, there's a full-on chance Cory could get his pickle wet. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about boys who want to move, but their girlfriends aren't ready. I feel like all of these things were really, really important, especially since Eric will be going into college next year and we get the boys getting a little bit older. So for me, this made sense and I wasn't surprised by it, especially considering that mid-season finale, we had Cory and Topanga with their Pittsburgh episode and kind of talk about, hey, Topanga has new parents, our guardianship. Topanga and Cory feel like they love each other and they're the one. But hey, by the way, they're not having sex and Topanga's not ready to have sex. So for me, this was a logical conclusion.
And I can respect this mature take of sexual boundaries in a relationship. I can appreciate that. To me, I wish I would have had something else to solidify this as a finale for Cory season as well, because this really feels like season 4 was Eric's story if you were watching this episode. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put a quarter in the jar that for the next Christmas episode in season 5, it's called A Very Topanga Christmas. Spoilers, it ends with them giving each other promise rings. I would argue that, I know I have my own thoughts on promise rings, but if you're going to do something like that, it seems to me that the end of the season in which she gave up living with her damn parents to be with this guy would have been more of a season finale thing to do now versus waiting till next Christmas.
So wait, what are you saying? Are you saying that they should have done the walk to Pittsburgh as the finale?
No. I'm saying that they should acknowledge the fact that Topanga gave up her family to be with Cory, and that if they had something that said, okay, I'm acknowledging that you've made a lot of changes for me, I want to do something to take this relationship to the next level to acknowledge that, it would have been more of a cap on their seasonal story versus just an episodic story.
Okay, you know what? I can see that. And I think very often we go back and forth because is this a good episode in terms of writing, in terms of middle, beginning, end? And is this a good episode for these characters? And I think we even disagree on that, but I can see your point about for having the Topanga left her family behind, maybe having some kind of resolution there would have been a better way to end the season.
And then we get something for Topanga to have a resolution for as well, or we could just get an update on what the fuck's happening with Turner.
Yeah. You know what? Like that would have been nice as well. I mean, I think we say this very often. It's Boy Meets World, so they don't care about Topanga. Like she just comes and goes.
And the boy rotates between Eric, Shawn, and Cory. And this episode definitely felt like an Eric finale, which is fine. We need them every now and then.
But also, I'm going to say it felt like a finale, like a Boy Meets World finale. And what I mean by that is you had your like whimsy, mystical shit where Shawn is like telling the future because he had this dream. And it's very similar to season 1 where magic happens and they blink Minkus away. You have the end of Eric's storyline and kind of really building on Eric and Cory's connection as brothers, which is very similar to last season's finale. So for me, I felt like this felt like a Boy Meets World finale. And I guess
I do agree that I really like when the show builds on the brotherhood between Eric and Cory. It almost feels like it's an afterthought. It almost feels like it's the end of the season and shit, we haven't had an Eric and Cory moment yet. But I do like it that this episode kind of centered on that and how each of them being brothers with each other influenced the decisions they made outside of their brotherhood. So Eric influencing Cory to kind of like think about what he truly wants with his relationship with Topanga, and Cory challenging Eric to think about what he really wants out of college. I thought that was a beautiful marriage of storylines.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Cory and Eric having storylines this season that just didn't match. Like whether it was Eric just all of a sudden seeming to care and then it not going anywhere, or Cory giving advice and you're like, why are you talking or not listening? You know, it's like there's been a lot of times where it seemed like the writers were trying to force a moment and it didn't work and it didn't balance. Whereas to me, this episode is what all of those episodes should have been. They had a shared lesson that they learned. They had moments where one person's storyline balanced the others. And I thought and it just felt real. Like the moment when Eric walks into the room and Cory's just like, yo, it's not what you think. Eric gives a very big brother speech that totally matches where Eric is in this time and what Eric would say. And then you also get Cory's response to Eric's speech, which is very akin to what we heard earlier in the security guy episode. And I just thought that, again, this all made sense. It all balanced out in a way that we don't always get.
Can we... Okay, I want to get more into this, but I want to stop so we can do the roll call because I want to talk about the girls who we see in this episode.
Okay, so let's start with in our roll call, we get Brigida Dow as Julie. We get Lisa Dean Ryan as Mary Beth. We get Sandra Lafferty as Mrs. Blutman. I can't remember how they pronounced it. And then finally, we get Bonnie Bartlett as the Dean of Admissions, who we will later, I know she comes back. I know she's really important. I don't want to spoil it, but for those who have seen the show ahead, you know why she's an important character.
Well, she's also the wife of the actor who plays Mr. Feeney.
Yes.
So that's just important to throw in there. Obviously, that's going to play a bigger part later on. But for right now, it's just that's her connection to the show. My issue with this episode, and the reason why I'm having a hard time accepting it as a great finale is because all the great things that they do for Eric and his development in this season, the show still falls so short when it comes to showing women not being the 3 archetypes we've seen of women in this episode. The women that we meet are all either perfect Topanga, crazy,
sexual temptress,
the hoe character that we see in Mary Beth, and then we just have this polite woman who just has one job to do, who is also kind of made fun of this episode too.
House mother.
The house mother. That's fine. I'm not so worried about that. The Mary Beth character is the one I have some real problems with because to me, it doesn't feel like a realistic interaction that a woman would have with a man. It feels like something like under the male gaze, this is something that would happen, but never in real life.
Yeah, this definitely felt like I was watching it being like, some dude almost got caught cheating and was like, this will make a great storyline. Or actually cheated and was like, this will make a great storyline. Either way, this was definitely some dude's version of a tale instead of like a nuanced look at relationships and long distance and wanting to go there and not being really connected or seeing eye to eye with your partner.
Yeah. And I would also argue that one of the reasons why I thought this was a weak finale for Cory is because I really feel like he didn't learn any of the lessons he's learned throughout the past few seasons. We saw this when he went to What's-Her-Face's party with Shawn, and they were the only two people there with the party. Topanga's homesick, and he lets that interaction with that girl go on way too long. She eventually kisses him, and then she leaves, right? Then Cory leaves and says to Topanga, I'm sorry I did this, right? The entire time I'm watching the episode, I'm like, Cory, you should have left a long time ago. And when I'm watching this episode, the entire time I'm seeing Cory and Mary Beth together, I'm like, bro, you should have been out of there a long time ago. You waiting till you're on the bed and called by Eric to stop is not anything that shows a commitment to this girl who left her family to be with you. And that's part of the issues I have.
I'm really glad you brought in the Lester family to be with you, because I honestly did kind of look at this episode kind of standalone because, you know, we've had guests for so long, and this is the first time I've actually just watched an episode for the sake of watching the episode. And I took it as its own piece. But when you consider the season and the fact that Topanga has left her family to be with you, and she tells you, for all you know, that her aunt won't let her go, and you get mad at her and you're like, it seems like you don't even want to be alone with me. It's like all you guys do is spend time together. That's all you do. It's crazy that you're mad at her for not wanting to spend an additional weekend with you. And when you consider all of that, you're right. I will say though that this is very fitting from Cory, from your own admission. Yeah. Cory is just a cheater. I mean, don't get me wrong. Cory never successfully cheats, but Cory is the type of guy who, like, I don't know how to say it, but Cory's just a tip dude. Like
100%. I mean? It's like, what is cheating to Cory? Because I'm pretty sure that him entertaining the idea of Mary Beth is just as much of a problem as him going through with it. Like, he stayed around that room way too long.
I would say not even entertaining, because like entertaining would be like, oh, I kind of thought she was cute. We're like both flirting. But from the very beginning, he was like, yo, Shawn, your dream, wrong. Girl is looking at me. And you're right. That's your point, to be like, I got a girlfriend. I got to get myself out of this situation.
Shawn got out of there and Cory didn't. That was a choice.
Exactly. That was a choice. That is a choice. And then second of all, you have the idea that he's stuck on the bed. I kind of get that. But if Eric had not opened that door, Cory definitely would have done it. And that's just the reality. It's just
Mary
the reality.
Beth looked at him and said, I'm going to go take a shower. And he's like, oh, so we're done here? She's like, not even close. I'm just getting this beehole ready for you, Big Poppy. And he's not using that as an opportunity to leave, but like, hold on, let me see what this clean butthole looks like. That is a problem.
Yeah,
Cory.
No, I'm gonna say, like, it's just, I want to say, like, of course, for me, there is a difference between like actually going through with the action. But I have a feeling that if Topanga were the one who would have walked into that room, like you'd be hard pressed to excuse yourself out of it. Yeah. The whole excuse of I didn't actually go through with it would not work. I don't know a single female who would be like, oh, you almost cheated, but I walked in conveniently in time to stop you, and therefore it's okay.
Any woman who's listening to this, I want you to watch the episode. I want you to think about your man as Cory and think about at what point you would prefer your partner to leave the room. And I'm telling you, it's probably way sooner than on the bed with a clean butthole woman.
Yeah, but look, here's the thing. I will admit, I'm not innocent. I definitely would have, like, depending if you're attracted to that person, probably would have stayed a little bit longer than I should have. You know, like it's just the fact. But anyone in a relationship knows that there's a don't pass go moment where you have made a choice. You are actively saying, let's just see where this goes. And
that's what it was.
The moment you make that decision, you're already in trouble.
And that's what I think is my issue with how Cory is portrayed, is because he's seen as the good guy for not going through with it. But him being a good guy would have been, let me not see where this goes. And that's kind of the takeaway I wish we had. That's the lesson I wish Cory would learn, because honestly, it's just giving him a lot more wiggle room than he deserves.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, you have guys writing this show, so it makes clear that a guy would be like, I mean, he didn't get it in, so all good. I do want to talk about, again, we said it earlier, and I will just talk about Cory and Eric's scene.
Totally.
And after that, I want to talk about Eric's choice about college and that whole storyline. But I do want to talk about Cory and Eric's scene, because for me, that scene is like the chef's kiss of the episode.
Totally. Absolutely. And I will agree with you on that like, even though, like how you said, in the viewing this as a seasonal finale does have some things that you can nitpick, but as an episode, the way these stories, the A and B story, marry each other, the way that Shawn and Cory are able to learn from each other, both in their circumstances, it's so expertly done. And that's the main takeaway I took from season 4, was that this is the season where they got that recipe right, where they learned how to tell two stories at once that can coincide with each other instead of ones that take away from each other. And so for that reason, I do think this is kind of a stronger episode than maybe I gave it credit for, because I do so much love the resolution that inspires both Cory and Eric to make these really great choices.
Yeah. The idea of Eric coming in, one of the things that I loved about it is Eric comes in, he's like, you know what? Don't mind me. I'm going to get my stuff and leave. And Cory's like, yo, it's not what you thought. Blah, blah, excuse. And Eric's like, look, you're a grown person. I'm not here to judge you. You're an adult. You got to make your own choices. That's fine. However, I will advise you that you're going to have a moment, and then tomorrow morning, when she's gone, when all this is behind us, and Topanga knows nothing about it, but you'll know, and Mary Beth will know, and if you're as good of a person as you always claim to be, I don't think that's going to work out for you. I don't think that's really going to be your vibe. And what did he say? 16 years of a relationship gone in an instant. And I think that that's just really, really important to talk about, not only as a TV show, but like especially as a TV show aimed to teenagers and people who look at Cory and Topanga as like a blueprint for a healthy relationship. Really talking and telling these people, A, temptation is very real, but B, temptation will satisfy you for the moment. But is it worth everything else is really, really important. Because maybe Cory hasn't learned that lesson, because every single season and every single episode where this topic has come up, it's always been like, Topanga found out, he felt guilty, she forgave him. And this was like, no, she's not here. What decision are you going to make on your own?
I know what you're going to say. No, Cory, you don't. You're a big boy. You know what you're doing. Nothing was going to happen. You don't have to answer to me, Cory. Did you know Topanga lied to me? Then she had this coming. And Mary Beth is beautiful, and she's here, and no one's ever going to know about it. Except for Mary Beth. And you. You know, Eric, we had this whole weekend planned out, okay? Why didn't Topanga want to come with me? And tomorrow Mary Beth will be gone. And so will 16 years of a great relationship with somebody you really care about. Somebody you love. Somebody who's worth waiting for.
And I would even argue that in the past, Cory has been interrupted from making these choices every time. It's like, if Eric didn't come in on the 8th hour, I would really argue whether or not like Cory would have came to this resolution. But I will say that like that your entire relationship gone in a minute is the main takeaway from any time that like you're in that position where you're like, do I see where this is going or not? Like, it's that wager. It's like, am I willing to wager whatever this fictional outcome may be for a thing that I'm already sure about? SHORE, sure about. I do. I agree that I feel like that was a really solid moment and a strong moment for the episode. And I do like how, obviously we're going to get to Eric's storyline in a bit, but, that Cory was able to accept the lesson that Eric was trying to teach in a way that wasn't dismissive. It wasn't like, well, you shouldn't worry about me. You should focus on your own self. He didn't do that. He was like, actually, you know what? You make a good point. But in that same vein, maybe you should consider not taking the easy way out as well.
Absolutely. I think that a few things. One, if Eric would not have come in, we definitely would have opened up on a scene of Cory throwing away the condom. That's just like, it's where we would have been had Eric not shown up. Number one. Number two is, you're right. I
don't think Cory packs a rubber. I'm just going to throw that out there. He doesn't seem like that kind of guy who's prepared.
Mary Beth is in college. I don't know about anybody else, but in college, I had that drawer with just like a bunch of condoms. And here's the thing. I had them not just for me, but all my friends knew that drawer was always filled with condoms. So I'm just saying.
You're right. You know what? Cory doesn't seem like the type who would be prepared. Mary Beth seems like she is very prepared for any situation.
She threw out all of her ex-boyfriend's stuff except a box of condoms. I'm just saying.
Because obviously a woman doesn't know how to handle her emotions. Jesus Christ, Boy Meets World. What are you saying?
What they've been saying. But then you have the idea of, as you said, Cory accepting that and really owning up to what he almost did, but then taking that lesson and sharing it with his brother, being like, hey, you deserve more too. You shouldn't just take what's given to you, because just like I'm about to throw away all this effort that I've put in, so are you. And that's not only a good mirroring of storylines, that's a great brotherhood. And that's a great way to show that Cory received the lesson, but also how you sometimes can't see yourself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Eric, you deserve better too. What do you mean? Listen, if you go to this school, you're going to feel good for like a day, and then you won't. Okay, I mean, I know you have worked so hard and so long. You deserve to go to a place that's worthy of all that effort.
Should we use this as an opportunity to travel back to the beginning of the episode and talk about Eric's development?
Yeah, let's do it.
I feel like Eric obviously had the stronger story in this episode, the stronger story this season. Him starting the show with, I'm nervous about interviewing in a real college that has, that's going to push me outside of my comfort zone and let me look into something that may be easier, that may be a sure thing. That feels so realistic to the character of Eric to me, and his development, him getting to the point where it's like, actually, I don't want that, to me is not a decision that season 3 Eric would have made. And that's why I love his story arc this episode, because if it wasn't for the influence of Feeney and his parents this episode, this season, I don't think we would have gotten to a point where Eric's like, actually, I do want to push myself to something harder. Because last season, he was telling his friends about getting accepted to a fake school that he knew was fake. And so I think, seeing him go to a school now that's not going to really push him academically was something that he was already conscious about. And I think it's because of the journeys he's made this season. So I again, very strong episode and finale for his arc.
Yeah, this is a good bookend to his season, as you pointed out, because we opened up on Eric not wanting to face the real world, not wanting to go back home. Remember, that was what season 4's first episode was about. So to have him go from there to, again, choosing to challenge himself and choosing to see himself as more than just settle down and taking what he can get is really important. Sorry, I felt that cough coming for a while. I was like, hold it. Okay. And then you have the idea that I don't know why. I'm going to say what it is. We're from Florida. I felt a little bit targeted. I felt attacked. I felt like they were saying that
100%.
The school was in Florida. It felt very much like a party school. And I was like, what are y'all trying to say? Now, maybe that's just me being defensive. But
okay, so did they say the school was in Florida? I think I missed that.
No. Honestly, it just says what, surfer school, beach college or something like that?
Something that clearly is not in New Jersey. Like they're driving a while to get to this school.
Exactly. They're out again, just because of the drive. I'm assuming they're on the East Coast, and this is like a University of Miami type thing.
Okay. All right. Probably more like Jacksonville, but that's.
But either way, yeah. I just watching it, I thought that it brought up an interesting idea of college, even because you have Julie, who's like, yo, real life is 4 years away. It almost reminded me of 30 Rock's Leap Day Williams, real life is for March. That's kind of like what I thought about it. And I liked that Eric was like, no, I mean, like college is a social time and it's great to hang out with your friends. But if you're going to go, you should also be going to get something. Leave, as he said, leave with more than what I came in with. And I thought that was a pretty good argument. And again, we're kind of, I won't say anti-college, but we're definitely pro other options than college after high school. But I think if you're going to go, one of the things that I witnessed all the time were people who just burned out or dropped out because they went to college to have fun. It's like, yo, you can not pay admission and go to a party.
Yes, exactly. I kind of mentioned this a few weeks ago as part of the homework that I've been watching the show Blackish and during quarantine. And one of the things I want to point out is that they had their older son have a gap year for college. And at the end of his gap year, he's like, you know what? I actually am deciding not to go to college. I feel like, with just the way the landscape is, I have more opportunities elsewhere. And I have to say, as much as I agree with that sentiment more, I do feel like Eric getting into college is a better, more satisfying story for a viewer. And like, as much as I agree that Eric could have probably found opportunity elsewhere, I'm sorry, my dog's like barking. I don't know if
you're fine. It's slight, but it's fine.
Him actually deciding to push himself outside of, I think that's the thing, is that for him, he wanted to learn and get the knowledge and the experience of college. It wasn't this thing where he wanted to go because other people said he should go. He came to the conclusion of, hey, I've been out in the world for a year. I'm realizing that I have way more options this way. It just felt like a very organic and a very, it's a storyline they really nourished throughout the season. I feel like this is the most consistent story we've seen throughout the season. I don't think that Shawn or Cory had an arc that lasted the entire season like this. So, I just have to say it was very satisfying as a viewer to see Eric come to this conclusion and make this decision.
Absolutely. And also to see it like, we kind of got Feeney to give us the lesson early on of sometimes a sure thing is not the best thing. Like that's what Feeney says, and that kind of carries throughout. But it's not that Feeney told him, and it's not that some teacher, adult, or other individual told him that so sorry, I lost my train of thought. It's not that one of those older individuals told him that this isn't for you and you need to challenge yourself in school. It was Eric being like, yo, what am I actually getting from this? And what would this be? I mean, and then you have the fact that Cory helps him make that decision and be like, yo, step harder. But I just thought that it was really important that it wasn't necessarily Feeney or his parents or anything else. He pretty much came to the conclusion on his own, and then Cory helped push him over the threshold.
And when you think about just all the episodes we've seen with him this season, the security guy episode, it makes so much sense for Eric to go, well, if I go to the school, where will I be when it's over? Because that's he spent a year in the world and he's like, I need to prepare myself for that world. Whereas when he was getting out of high school, he's like, I want to go to just college. And so again, just a fantastic end to his seasonal arc.
Yeah, absolutely. So is there anything else you really want to talk about?
I want to briefly again, tip my hat to Ryder Strong, who I think he plays such a small part in this episode. But when I think about where we just saw him in the last episode, where he was literally crying over the seemingly dead body of Jonathan Turner, and for him to so like easily switch back into his comic relief role, I think these actors are extremely talented for child actors. I think that one of the things I think we take for granted when we're watching Boy Meets World is how well the performances are from these actors, because, there's a reason why a lot of shows chose to go with older actors to portray teenagers in the 90s, was because they wanted more nuanced performances. But I would argue that, Ben and Ryder and Will and Danielle have given performances that are not only fulfilling for the story, but also so much more fitting because they're the actual ages of the characters they're portraying. So I just, again, want to just tip my hat to Ryder, who I thought was a great comic relief in this episode and really showed his range after last episode.
I agree. Honestly, I kind of feel like, in a way, thinking about it, I wonder if the season as a whole would be better if we switched the last two episodes. So, I mean, like, I know we wouldn't be ending on a high note that we do with Eric getting into college, but maybe if they had this trip and they'd done this thing, and then you have Shawn being wooed by this cult because he has just seen Eric and he's just seen the next stage and he's still not feeling that he fits in anywhere. And then us ending on that cliffhanger with Turner would make more sense. Like, I wonder if switching this to would make it better because we would get more of a context. I'm just saying that because I agree with you that Ryder Strong does really well. But again, it kind of bothers me that we just had Shawn be very like, I'm giving my life to God, like all this other stuff. I need to find me. And then this week he's just a goofball again. And I just feel like there's a disconnect.
I have to agree with you because I feel like one of the things that's a little unsatisfying is that Shawn doesn't really get a strong resolution to his season. And at the beginning, I mean, when we think about where we saw Shawn this season, he was moving back in with his family, who we haven't seen since basically Thanksgiving. We have no idea what's going on there. He was struggling with a bunch of class issues between him and Cory. We haven't seen class issues show up since, again, I think like the early half of the season. It felt like the beginning half was very Shawn heavy, and towards the end we kind of lost track on telling his overall story. And so maybe something with his parents, he went to that cult, and it was because, Turner said, like, your parents are working out their marriage. It would have been nice to maybe see a glimpse of that with him in the finale. Just something to really kind of that makes it feel like his story had a completion and had a purpose to it. Would have been nice.
I just want to say real quick, I posted the question about last episode in the Facebook group. I asked, you guys came out heavy in defense of cult fiction. And I just want to say, you're all wrong. It is not a good episode. You all pointed out elements that are good. And as I said earlier, good ingredients does not make a good meal. Just going to say that.
Damn, we said it. We said it. We don't give a shit. We don't give a shit.
Everyone just literally, they were like, yo, this scene was so good. Or like, it really sparked this thing about Shawn. And I was like, yeah, but that doesn't mean the episode's good. That just means you like the idea.
And I would argue that people who like this episode probably like it better in memory than watching it recently. They probably are big Shawn fans as far as like storytelling goes. And so they relate to the episode. Or I'll even say this, they're Christians. And so there being a God episode pulls them in.
I will say that someone did point out, because I did read the comments, someone was like, yo, I saw myself in that episode and it really identified with me. And if that's how you feel about it, then, I don't want to take that away from you. I think that's great. But I will not say that is a structurally good episode.
No,
because it's not. And I also, like I said, maybe it would be better if we had just moved it to the season finale, because then even like the cliffhanger ending would make more sense, especially considering that we've kind of done this with Shawn before.
Can I tell you what would have honestly made this episode such a fucking perfect finale? If you know, maybe like Eric's about to read his letter about him going into college and he gets it and like everyone applauds. And then maybe there's a knock at the door and who is it? Jonathan Turner. And everyone celebrates that he's recovered from his accident. Something just to really just like bring it all home. And I think that's the thing that I felt like was missing from a season finale was bringing it all home, bringing it back to everyone.
You know, it's really funny because one, I believe the first episode of this season is like home, right? Is it like you can't come home? So I just think that's funny that you said that. And then also one of the reasons why I love this episode, and I'm going to give it really high marks when we move on, is the fact that I felt like this episode wasted no time. It did everything right. It used all of their characters perfectly.
Totally.
We didn't get anyone we didn't need. We didn't get any kind of side plot that I'm like, why are we spending our time doing this? It felt really tight. It felt really important. And we used the characters as we needed to use them. And there was even this moment at the end where Eric has just gotten into college and Feeney says something and Eric's like, because of you. I can't even remember what it is, but like there's just this moment. And I'm like, yeah, this episode ended reminding us that, hey, we've established this bond between Eric and Feeney, by the way. And Eric has completed his arc. And Cory and Topanga are back on the right track. You know what I mean? Saying it's just, it felt like it really tied everything in a bow with that, at least within itself. So I really liked this episode, and that's where I'm at.
I don't really got shit else to say, if I'm being honest.
I'm not going to overmilk this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to overmilk this. I will say that bra moment or Feeney taught me. Which one do you want to do first?
I'm going to do the bra moment. And again, my bra moment is Cory waiting till Eric comes in before he decides to leave. Cory should have been able to come to that conclusion without any outside influence. And that's what I'm going to argue.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't really have a bra moment because I think everything kind of made sense to me. The only thing I will say is when Cory was like, oh, Cory gets freaky. I was like, yo, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, it's not out of character, but it was definitely a moment where I was like, oh, we are maturing. We are literally talking about we're going to be away on the weekend, no parents. When can I get it in?
100%. That's what every kid wants to know.
All right. Feeney taught me.
Feeney taught me sometimes the short thing's not the best thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's without doubt the lessons of this episode. And I really think they hit it home.
Yeah.
More than anything, I think that's what I want to walk away with is I feel like usually sometimes we know what their goal is. We know what they said they wanted to teach you and they don't always hit it. But this one is like, hey, this was the lesson and this is how it tracks.
Can I also argue a second Feeney taught me? And I think this is the overall lesson that we got from Eric this season, which is, waiting till you're ready to move to the next step. I think that he would not have been ready if he had went to college last year. I think it was good for him to take this time to figure out what he wanted to do. And his conversation with the dean at the end where he's like, I'm ready to see what my potential is. I'm ready to move outside of my comfort zone. And I'm ready to just really find out what college is going to bring out in me. I think is a really great lesson as well. So I just want to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, I just dawned on me. We talked about how the writers kind of skip over Topanga. Should we talk about Topanga not being ready real quick?
You know what? I think that's a really interesting idea that Topanga was like, hey, I don't trust me to not want to fuck you, bro. It's not that I don't trust you. I just think that like, hey, I'm kind of thinking about getting it in as well. And I feel like that might be not the best move for us. I just thought that was kind of interesting that they were like, hey, even the quote unquote good girl, perfect girl sometimes wants to get laid. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's just what I wanted to say. I really applaud the show. Again, sometimes it's a little too much harking on the virginal archetype, but just the idea that Topanga's like, yo, I'm not ready. And I hope you can appreciate that. But also Cory coming back and not angrily, but just legit being like, yo, when have I ever not taken no for an answer from you? And I really think that these are the kind of conversations we should be encouraging. Again, I'm pretty sure we had this homework earlier in the season, but the show Sex Education does a really good job at this, at having teenagers have these uncomfortable conversations, but they only make having them more normalized. And I really, really appreciate whenever a show's like, yo, how about you talk to your partner?
Yeah, totally. And again, just normalizing like females who want sex, like Topanga just being like, this WAP is ready for you, baby, but I'm not ready to give it to you. You know, is a pretty dope lesson to kind of say that, like, hey, you know, like it's not. I think this is the first time, the first moment in Boy Meets World where I haven't seen them slut shame someone for wanting to have sex. Yeah. And so I think that's probably the main takeaway I got from it.
I mean, to be fair, they didn't even really slut shame Mary Beth. Like, they didn't say that she was wrong. They were just like, Cory had to walk away. And
Mary Beth knew he had a girlfriend and didn't care. She was a homewrecker, just like all these other bitches are.
But also, here's the thing. I'm not going to, we can go into this, but also she's like, look, I'm in college. I know what high school relationships are like. You know, she's
you
like,
ain't wrong. You ain't wrong.
You know, she's like, oh, you and your high school girlfriend? Yeah, bruh. Sure. You know, I mean, and again, at the end of the day, we know that Cory and Topanga go the long run. That's something that we know for a fact. But also, I will not judge a girl for being like, look, let's be honest. I'm not even forcing you. I'm legit letting you know I'm up. I'm ready. Do with that as you will. It'll be your choice because, yeah.
I think that if we look back on it, Mary Beth and Cory could have had a real lesson when it came to consent, and that sometimes, I don't know. I didn't like the way Mary Beth was portrayed. I don't see women acting like that. I've never been friends with someone who I feel like would have an interaction like that, who would be like, hey, high school boy who I know has a girlfriend, I don't give a fuck about that. We're going to have sex. I'm going to go get this WAP ready, and you need to be ready. Like, that
Did we go
was
to
just
different colleges? Because I definitely know people who would be this way.
Then maybe, but I just, I don't know. You're right. Maybe I just didn't have this kind of experience where someone who, again, the idea that someone would want to fuck Cory that bad seems fictional to me. If you're out there and you're like, hey, I would ruin a relationship to fuck Ben Savage, then let us know. But that's just not something I see.
Just ruin our chances of getting Ben Savage on the pod. But like, it's the first thing he does when he comes up here. So, T, I hear you think I'm unfuckable.
No, but like the way that Cory is portrayed on this show does not seem like the kind of dude that would have this kind of situation happen to him. It seems like something that would happen to Shawn. I'll tell you that.
Topanga completely went up there and was like, yo, you are a sexy ass dude, Cory Matthews. So I think that's really important. Also, it's not that Mary Beth didn't like just chose him blindly. She's like, oh, you're a sensitive guy. She needed someone in that moment who was sensitive. And that's what she was looking for. And Cory was there. And that's why she chose him over Shawn. And I just think that's, you know, I don't know. You're right. I think please hit us back with your viewpoints on how Mary Beth was handled, because I think that she wasn't slut shamed in the fact that she just owned her sexuality and she was like, yo, this is what I'm about. And the show doesn't really judge her for it. But at the same time, you could argue the fact that she has to stand there and Cory's the one who's like, I can't. I must pass.
Oh man,
is a little bit much. Okay, so grade. What grade are you getting this?
I'm giving it a B+. It's not my favorite episode, but again, I felt like this writing was like strong. I love what they did with the two storylines together, and I love Eric's finale, so I give it a B+.
And I'm going to give this episode an A+. I honestly just think, I think that this episode as a standalone episode, and that's another thing. Whenever we do this, I'm usually judging per episode and you're judging per season, like where it fits into the season. But I think that this was a good episode. As I said, they used everyone properly. We got all of our Michael Jacobs moments. We got our tension. We got our comedy. We used everyone perfectly, and I just feel like that was a really good. Also, Eric's whole speech to get into college.
Wonderful.
I mean, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Homework. So, as you guys know, this is honestly the first episode that we are recording post the news of Chadwick Boseman's passing. And that's just honestly, if you haven't already, I was already watching the Marvel universe anyway. And we had recently watched Black Panther again. Of course, I had to watch it. If you haven't, please watch that movie. If you want to, go back and listen to our episode on when that movie came out so you understand how much it means to us. It was just a moment in time in Black culture. And I don't think anyone will forget the first time they saw Black Panther, especially if you're a person of color. And I don't think many Black people will forget the moment they learned that he died. I was just
going to say that we, as a family, watched Black Panther on Juneteenth. It felt like the ultimate celebration of Black excellence, and it was like we have to end our Juneteenth with a big showing of Black Panther. So like it really has done so much for the culture, and the fact that he made all these movies while he was sick is just so inspiring. We definitely need to give him some love.
So I wanted to make sure that we shouted that out again. Such a fantastic. I saw someone online say we were so right to celebrate Black Panther the way that we did when we did. And that's just how I felt. I mean, like, I'm so happy that at the time we all turned up, we all went out, we all really made sure to make sure he understood what that movie meant to us before he passed. So there's that. Also, speaking of for the culture, while we're on our break between seasons, Netflix is putting out a bunch of new shows, not new, I guess old, but they are re-releasing shows like Sister, Moesha's already out, The Parkers. So if you have not, or you're not familiar with these Black classic sitcoms, do yourself a favor, check them out over the break. You will not be disappointed. I'm already restarting my Sister rewatch, which is funny because I just finished The Game rewatch, and just Tia Mowry all the way,
all day, every day.
All day, every day, getting them Netflix checks. I just really think that everyone should take time and rewatch them. Girlfriends also comes out.
Incredible.
It's just a lot of good television to watch. So we hope that you watch and enjoy.
I do actually want to throw out one homework assignment. I got Showtime recently just because of streaming networks. I'm quarantined, whatever. They have a fantastic Motown documentary that I really enjoyed watching. That A Journey to Hitsville, I think it is, and it's interesting when you see how many of these people are still alive that they're interviewing. Like some of the greatest songwriters and performers, like some of the greatest Black entertainers of all time, who made songs that broke the color line. That's like, hey, I don't like Black people, but I like the Temptations and I like the Supremes, helped our movement. Like I just didn't.
I don't like Black people, but is like America's tagline.
Yeah, exactly. But when you really understand everything Berry Gordy did for our culture, like it's incredible. So like if you have the opportunity to watch it, go back. Literally every Motown song is a hit and a bop, and they were designed to be that way. And it's been going through our soundtracks, Spotify, we've been playing Motown nonstop. So I was just
so it sounds like you guys have a lot to do between the break. So make sure that you listen to our old episodes. Make sure that you guys hit us up with any of your thoughts. We will be back for the report card, of course. But until then, I guess we can wrap this up. Thank you guys for listening to Bro Meets World. Remember, you can find us on all the places that you're listening to us right now. Leave us a rating whenever you can. Keep giving us your feedback. We love it. We love interacting with you guys on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Hit us up on email at bromeetsworld@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at I am not your Oreo. TC?
You can find me on Instagram at @braverme, @braver.me. And again, guys, we're crazy to hear what you think about this. We want to know what you think about Mary Beth. We want to know what you think about Eric in school. We want to know if you would fuck Ben Savage. We want to know.
Yeah, that's right. Get him back in. If you guys can give us a list of people who will fuck him, then maybe he'll come back on that.
maybe we'll get him.
Okay. You guys remember to dream,
try,
and do good.
Later, bros.
Later, bros.